following program was produced by a community producer. The content, views, and opinions expressed are the sole responsibility of the community producer and do not reflect Malden Access Television, the City of Malden, or your cable provider. MATV welcomes your comments. Call us at 781-321-6400 or email us at access@matv.org.
Welcome to another version of Malden Disabled American Veterans on the Go. I'm your host, Mark Golub, past commander. I wanted to introduce to you in a brief moment two special gentlemen who will discuss child abuse, one of the great problems, social problems of this and many other generations. Child abuse is one of the main domestic dysfunctions in our society. Many children have been hurt. We don't find out about many of these because they keep them under wraps, but it is a great problem and getting worse by the day. My two guests today are members of BACA, Bikers Against Child Abuse. I will only use their street names. The gentleman to my immediate left is Topaz, and the gentleman next to him is Biggen, both members of BACA. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. And we'll start off by you're telling us a little bit about yourselves. We'll start with you, Topaz.
Yeah. I've been involved with Bikers Against Child Abuse since October of 2016, so about 2.5 years now. I've been a fully patched member since January of 2018, and I am now the communications officer for Bikers Against Child Abuse Northern Massachusetts. I've been riding motorcycles for not that long. I came late in life to being a biker. I learned to ride a motorcycle when I was 45 years old. A neighbor of mine was selling his bike and asked if I wanted to buy it, and I said, why not? What the heck? And so I bought his bike, started riding it around, and I learned about BACA, and I said to myself, I can't believe that this would actually work, but I looked up the number and found a Massachusetts chapter and gave them a call, and here I am.
Terrific. Biggen?
My name is Biggen. I've been riding a little over 10 years now. I also am a big fan of what BACA does, and riding in general for me has been a very therapeutic type of thing, getting on the road, builds camaraderie, things like that. I've been in BACA a little over 3 years now. Been a fully patched member a little over 2. And again, it's an unbelievable cause, and in some cases you don't even know about it until you find out, and then you realize what great things BACA is doing, and I wanted to be a part of it.
Well, I know both of you do, and it's wonderful to have you with us today. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the initials BACA, Bikers Against Child Abuse, how it got started, and why it chose child abuse as its main principal cause.
Absolutely. BACA began as an experiment, actually. It was founded in 1995 in Provo, Utah, by a social worker and a registered play therapist, someone who worked with children who had been abused, who had suffered trauma. And at this time, he was frustrated with the extent to which he found his difficulties in helping the children progress. He found that he would work with these children who had suffered these awful things, and he would have a lot of difficulty making progress with them. They would make progress and then fall back because he found they were living in fear all the time. They were living in a perpetual state of fear. And when you're living in a state of constant fear, always looking over your shoulder, you're putting all of your energy into dealing with that fear. You don't have any energy left to work on healing. And so the gentleman who founded the organization was himself a biker. He grew up in a community with a lot of bikers around him, and they kind of took him under their wing when he was a child. And he got to thinking, is that something that we could reproduce? Is that a dynamic that we could reproduce for these kids? And so as an experiment, he got some of his friends together and they rode out on their bikes to visit one of the children he was working with, and it worked. It helped this child come out of his shell for the first time in weeks. And so that was the experiment that became the first chapter of Bikers Against Child Abuse in Provo, Utah in 1995. And since then, we have expanded dramatically. We have at last count 287 chapters around the world in 15 countries, including Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. We have presences in 47 US states, and we are growing all the time. So that's the reason that it became Bikers Against Child Abuse, was because the gentleman who worked with who founded the organization worked with children who had suffered these awful things, and he was looking for something that would provide them with an extra level of support that they weren't getting from the system.
Okay, I was just, there are so many important causes in the world. I understand historically why you chose that one. Biggen, is there any other cause that you think that BACA would be interested in dealing with, or do they feel fixated only on this great problem?
Right. BACA has a very specific mission. We've centered really just on child abuse, and that's what's made us, the organization, so good at what it does. While there are many other horrible things out there in the world, we found that our niche that works best for the resources we have and for the people that we have is to focus just on the children and empowering those children to not be afraid in the world in which they live.
Very, very, very good. How prominent is this problem? Do you have statistics or any other way of gauging how extreme this problem is?
And unfortunately, child abuse in the United States and around the world continues at epidemic proportions. The National Children's Alliance, which collects statistics on these things, estimates that in the last year alone, over 700,000 children in the US alone were sexually abused. The World Health Organization, which tracks this around the world, estimates that in any given year, 12% of all children in the world will be abused in some way, and that of those children who have been abused, as they grow up, 1 in 4 of all adults around the world will be the survivors of sexual abuse. And it's that last statistic that we're particularly concerned with, because everything that we know about the structure of abuse, about the dynamics and the psychology of abuse, is that people who were abused as children are more likely to grow up to become abusers themselves, because that's a pattern that they learn in childhood, and even when they try to escape it, it's hard to escape those patterns and to escape that cycle of abuse. And we call it breaking the chains of abuse is what our goal is. So our mission is to help those children, to help empower those children not to feel afraid, so that they can end the cycle of abuse before they grow up.
Wow, amazing. Are there any statistics on child mortality at the hands of abuse?
I do not have any statistics on child mortality specifically. We focus again on breaking the cycle before it gets that far, on helping the children helping empower the children not to be afraid, so that they can stand up, so that they can tell their story, and so that they can understand that they are the ones who are the strong ones. They are the ones who have the power.
I have another question. I'll direct it to you.
Sure.
Child abuse is one of those problems that's hidden under a blanket.
Right.
People don't want to share that with other people. They keep it to themselves. It becomes a domestic secret, a black secret.
Right.
How do we uncover that blanket and expose this problem to its full gamut?
A lot of it comes down to awareness at the end of the day. And one of the key things that I do in the organization as the agency liaison is to search out local and state agencies that are already in place to help families who have children of abuse, and to bring those cases to light for organizations such as ours to help give these families the resources they need to show these children that they can be confident, they don't need to be afraid, and that helps bring the situation to light. The more you do that, the more awareness that's out there, whether it's through an awareness event, through a charity event, and these other people see what we're doing, they see the results, and they want to get involved, and that helps bring more cases to the surface. It's really, at the end of the day, it's about awareness and getting the word out.
And one of the things that we do that speaks directly to the stigma around having suffered abuse. Is we encourage the children, and we work to empower the children to be able to tell their story, to be able to testify in court if necessary, if their cases come to trial, so that they can stand up in court and say, this is what happened, that's the person who did this to me, and help them understand that saying that isn't the end of the world. That help them understand that they can say that, they can get it out there, and then they can choose whether or not to tell anyone again, and help them integrate it into their lives so that they can move forward. And
Yes.
we find that that's a very powerful way to help reduce that stigma, have the children understand how that happens.
I understand the stigma, but I'm curious to know how to get children to open up and share their stories. It took a long time for women, for instance, to open up about their abuse at the hands of various individuals,
Right.
fathers, mothers, lovers, whatever. How do we get these kids to open up so that we can deal with their problem with greater clarity?
It's a complex problem. It's a very, you've really hit the nail on the head. It's a difficult problem, and it's one that the professionals who work with the children are working on most of all. It's primarily the therapists and the social workers and the counselors who work with the children to help them uncover those things. They are the ones who have the tools to help them do that. Our job in Bikers Against Child Abuse is to help the children feel safe, help them feel empowered to understand that they have the ability to make the choices to speak or not to speak, and to help them feel, understand they don't have to be afraid.
Well, one of the greatest gifts that we can give these kids is confidence, is to make sure they feel confident in their ability, as Topaz says, to go into court and stand up there and testify, point out that person and say, I am not going to let you change my life and hurt me anymore. It's a very powerful thing. And the more kids that we can help do that, then to us, we'll take it one case at a time, one kid at a time.
Wonderful. Do you provide counselors for these damaged children? Or how do you direct them to get better?
Well, we don't provide counseling services for the children. We work with children generally who are already, we generally work with families who have already reported what is going on to someone, usually to a state authority, but to someone, a counselor or a therapist or someone. And so generally the children who we work with are already working with somebody who's professionally licensed and qualified to provide that kind of therapeutic service. Our job is to be available to step in when the child is feeling afraid, and when the child is feeling vulnerable, when the child is feeling powerless over what they have, so that we can come and we can help that child understand that they are not powerless, they are powerful, that they have the ability to stand up, they have the strength to move forward with this.
So you provide sources of strength, confidence, opening their hearts, because there's a lot they keep
Absolutely.
pent up for years. The pre-scandals, for instance, the past 20, 30 years. That sort of thing.
What we do is very simple. We show up for the children.
Right.
When the children call us, we're there, we're ready to come. If a child calls us at 2 o'clock in the morning and says, Topaz, I'm scared, I had a nightmare, I'm afraid he's coming back, we'll get on our bikes and we'll ride out to their house if necessary, and stand outside their house if they need, so that they can look outside their bedroom window and they can see the bikers standing there on the corner, and they know that we're not going to let anyone get through. And that is huge for the child to know that they are empowered to ask us, and to know that we will come out if they call, and to know that when we're there that they feel safe. And
Terrific.
Those are crucial things. And so it's a very simple thing what we do, but it plays a very important role in the life of a child who may not have been able to exert any choices, any power over the process of what they're going through once their abuse has been reported. All of their choices have been made for them. Their parents, lawyers, therapists have all been taking them through a process, and many of them have not felt they had an opportunity to make choices about what happens to them at all. With us, they are the ones in charge. They're empowered to ask, and that leads them to understand how much power they have over themselves and over their abuser.
Very good. We have to stop for a moment
Sure.
now. We'll be back after these PSAs in just a moment with Topaz and Biggen.
A promise was made. A promise that hit the beaches of Normandy. A covenant that split the skies over Berlin. A vow that captured Iwo Jima. A promise was made. A solemn oath that liberated Seoul. A sacred trust that defended Khe-Sanh. A pact that dug in Da Nang. A contract that weathered Tet. A promise was made. A pledge that stormed the desert in Iraq. A bond that patrolled door to door in Fallujah. An IOU that braved IEDs in Kandahar. A promise was made to America's veterans. A promise we all must keep. DAV fights for all veterans and their families so they get the health care, financial benefits, and support they earned. If you're a veteran who needs help or you'd like to help us keep the promise, visit DAV.org.
We're back. My guests today are two members of BACA, Bikers Against Child Abuse, Topaz to my immediate left, Biggen to his left. Let's talk now in terms of child abuse, what programs and events BACA supports and how you make them work.
Well, we have a process that we go through to empower the children that we work with, and it starts with a phone call. When a family in crisis will call us to begin the process and say that their child has suffered something, is having difficulty coping, we will arrange an initial visit with the family. We'll take a few of the members of our chapter, a small number, so as not to overwhelm anyone in the family, and we'll go out to the child's house to meet the family, to meet the child, and to give the child a chance to meet us, to see the big scary bikers with our big leathers, but to understand that we may look big and scary, but when we're with them, we're not going to be scary with them, that we're there to support them, that we're there in their corner. And that gives them a chance to sort of understand who we are, what we do, and gives the family a chance, and especially gives the child a chance to decide if they want us to be involved, if they think that this would be helpful, if they feel like this is something that is empowering for the child, and if that is all true and this seems like a case where we can make a difference, then we will arrange a meeting with the entire chapter, which is something we call a level 1 intervention.
Right, so once that initial has been done and we've decided that this is a good case and a good fit for BACA's criteria, we do what's called a level 1 or adoption ride. And that is when the whole chapter rides out to the child's house or an agreed meeting spot, and they get to meet the entire group for the first time. And it's a really powerful experience. It's one of the things we enjoy the most. When you see 30 bikes roll up, it's quite a sight. And what we do at that point is assign the child a primary. And those primaries will be the person they can contact whenever they need. Okay, 24/7, 365. A lot of these kids have been let down their whole lives, but in some way or another. We don't let them down. We say we're going to be there, we're going to be there. They call us, we answer the phone. So when we do this level 1 adoption ride, they get to meet everybody, and they also become sort of adopted into our family. And we do that in a couple ways. First thing we do is every child gets a vest like this. We want them to feel like us, right? They all get to pick their own road name, right? So the child gets to pick their own road name, and we'll sew it onto the vest right there.
Oh.
We don't have one on there now, but this is an example.
Sure.
And it's got some of the patches on it like we do, right? And we give them the vest. They can cut the sleeves off if they want, to feel like us, like bikers. And that's usually a great way to break the ice. Then, more importantly, we give them a teddy bear. This is the exact bear. And what we do is after we've introduced ourselves to the child, everybody in BACA will fill the bear with love, and we'll hug it. And it's quite a sight to see 30 huge, scary bikers hugging teddy bears, right? And basically we do that is to tell the child, if you're ever scared, you can always hug that bear, and the love that we put in it is there. And if you need more love, we'll come back and we'll hug it some more, right? So that's a great thing. And once we've done with that, it's really up to the child. Like you said, it's their choice. We've had our nose, our fingernails painted, toenails, they've put makeup on us.
I mean, if you've never seen 40 bikers standing around with their hair done and their makeup and their nails painted, that's a sight to see too.
It really is. Like I said, anything they want to do. It's like I said, they are in control. They get to make the choices. We are just there to be there for them. So
That's
it's a really
wonderful.
important part of it.
And it's I can't overstate how important that is. That even the little things, we give them the opportunity to decide what their road name is. They decide if they're going to keep the sleeves on the
Yep.
jacket. They decide what they're going to do with us when they're there, and we show them with every step of the way, with every action we take, that they choose these things and we take those choices seriously, so that they understand that once they understand that they have the choices with the little things, when we give them the choices about the big things that they have to decide,
Right.
they understand that we mean it, that they really have those choices.
That's wonderful. Do you have any fundraising events coming up that maybe our viewers would like to know about?
Well, we recently had a very successful fundraiser. We're going to do again probably next year. We had a stand-up comedy fundraiser that was very successful. We have an awareness event coming up in August. On August 10th in Revere, we're going to have a Touch a Truck event. We're going to bring a whole bunch of big trucks, big machinery, out to Boston Harley-Davidson in Revere. And it's an opportunity for kids to come up and see the big trucks, fire engines, ambulances, all kinds of things like that up front, up close, and actually literally touch them, get up and see how they work. Kids who love trucks and loud, noisy machines, they love this kind of thing. They'll get to come and see all of our motorcycles and get up and sit on them in a safe environment. We're going to have a dunk tank, a bouncy house. There are going to be food trucks on site. It's going to be a great family event on August 10th in Revere. And we'd like to see as many people there as possible. This is an opportunity for more people to learn who Bikers Against Child Abuse is, that we're here in the North Shore area, and that we're ready to stand up for families that are in crisis and need.
Great. This program is being taped in June, so when it is shown, there will be plenty of time to make the arrangements
Absolutely.
to participate in your event.
Mm-hmm.
That's very good. How do you view the future of child abuse, if you were not around to be part of the solution?
Well, as we said, one of the biggest contributors to child abuse is children who have been abused, who grow up, tend to repeat those patterns, tend to repeat those cycles. And so one of the most important things that we can do is to break that cycle before it begins. Is to empower children to stand up to end that cycle themselves, because they are the ones who are doing the work to do it, and to make sure that they don't carry that forward, that they can have an opportunity to grow up into a whole, well-adjusted adult, and to be able to move forward. People sometimes say that our mission is to end child abuse, and I think that's a great mission. We all should be working towards that.
Yeah.
I like to think in terms of more manageable missions, to break that down into steps. My goal is to make sure that every man, woman, and child, every family in crisis, every child living within range of the internet, of TV, of magazines, knows that BACA is here, knows that BACA is ready to stand up. And I want every child who grows up living in fear to grow up with a cut like this in the back of her closet, so that every time she looks at it, it reminds her of how strong she really is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you want to add to that?
I mean, we've seen great examples of kids that we worked with in BACA when they were really young, and then once they hit 18, we sort of stop as they're adults, but we still keep in contact, and we've seen these kids go on to carry on very productive lives, get married, do all kinds of things, and it's great. Like he said, we've stopped that cycle, and we've shown that person that they are important, they have the confidence, they don't need to be afraid, and that helps with the awareness for other folks as well.
Well, you're accomplishing a lot with what you do. To be frank, my vision of a biker was Marlon Brando. He made those old movies in the 60s.
Yeah.
But that stereotype, that negative stereotype, has been broken.
Well, it's not an accident. I mean, that we're bikers against child abuse. It's the image of the biker is one of the reasons that this works so well. We like to say that this wouldn't quite be the same thing if it was golfers against child abuse. You know, not to say anything about golfers really, but when it comes down to it, if you're feeling vulnerable and you want somebody standing guard outside your house, you want somebody who looks like they can deal with something like this. And children understand what a biker is. Children, even little children, have a very clear sense of what a biker is. And for them, a biker is someone who's not afraid of, not intimidated by anyone or anything. We have, there's a story about a child in Baca who was in court to testify, and the judge was talking to them to warm them up a little bit, and said, "You must be, you're very brave to come here. That you must be very scared." And the child said, "No." And the judge said, "Really?" And the child pointed in the back of the courtroom, where there's 20 of guys in leather and tattoos and beards standing in the back, and she said, "My friends are scarier than he is."
That's right.
And that's what it's about.
That's the empowerment right there. That's the confidence. That's why we do it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
We have just a couple of minutes left here. Do you have any final comments you'd like to address to our viewing audience?
Yeah, what I'd like to say to everybody is BACA is an excellent resource for families that are already working with agencies, advocacy centers. A lot of what we do is we can fill that gap for where the agencies and these other advocacy centers, their services stop. And we are a gap past those services because we fill such a specific mission that is just focused on just the child. And we want people to understand that you know, we obviously we keep in contact with agencies. We want to build partnerships with these agencies because they help us get the referrals. We do presentations with them. But one thing they've always told us is you guys provide a great resource and service past what we can do sometimes. And we want people to understand that there is that process there, and that's why we are such a great fit.
I understand what you're saying. That's very good. If somebody is interested in helping to finance what you do, or to find out more about BACA or whatever it is,
Sure.
how do they get in touch?
Well, there's a couple ways. The phone number that's been flashed on the bottom of the screen, they can call that number. 339-224-3047 is the number. They can go to www.bacaworld.org, and that'll basically show them all the different chapters that are out there if they want to find more information about what we do. The best thing to do if they're in the local area is come to one of our awareness events. You'll see us riding around, you'll see us at events. Stop and ask questions. We have brochures we can hand out. We can talk to them about the mission and tell them what BACA is all about.
You can follow Bikers Against Child Abuse International on Facebook. All of the public events that we have will be publicized there, along with events for other chapters around the world. And as Biggen said, call our helpline number if you have any questions. Anyone who has a child in need, anyone who works with children in need, anyone who works with families that are struggling, please call our helpline. We will talk to you. We will do whatever we can to get you resources. And if you work with children who have this, we will come and we will make a presentation to your staff. Call us and we will do whatever we need.
Yep.
Terrific. This has been a very enlightening program. The old stereotype of Marlon Brando and his group is no longer effective. These gentlemen are bright, charming, intelligent, and they're sharing their lives with others. Please keep that in mind and recognize the great work that BACA is doing on behalf of child abuse. My name is Mark Golub, and I am very happy to be your host on DAV on the Go, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody again the next time.